How's it going, YouTube? Welcome into Sprint Car Central. Today we've got a little bit of a different type of an episode. We have an interview. Darin Naida jumped on with us, and it was kind of funny. We planned this episode before anything happened at the Chili Bowl. We had it. So, Darin Naida, welcome into Sprint Car Central. Thank you for being here. First off, I always kind of lead like that, but I think you've taken the time to be here, but you're coming off of one of the most historic Saturdays we've ever seen at the Chili Bowl. And I know you've talked a lot about it, so talk as much as you want, but I kind of would love to get this thing started by talking about what this winter has been like, what went into this, what went into making everything work the way it did throughout the course of the week. Obviously, you didn't have the qualifier night that you wanted to have, but made up for it. And I mean, it certainly has boosted not only your, I think, the eyes that are on you going forward, but I think it's also been a bit of a quick surge in your career. Kind of talk us through like what that Saturday was like, how that whole thing felt and came together, and um, really just what it feels like to you now as you get a chance to take a look back at it.
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, thanks for having me on this deal.
Yeah, of course.
I like coming on and talking to people, and I mean, I'm sure anybody that's come up to me at the racetrack knows that I've got no problem talking. I sometimes I get myself into trouble. I'll stand and talk to people for longer than I should have, and then I'm rushing to get in the race car and get out for engine heat. But I guess that's all part of it. I've been on. I think this is my fourth or fifth podcast now after everything that went down at Chili Bowl, and I know we had this lined up beforehand. Um,
Yeah.
but it's always fun getting to talk to different people, and even if you are telling the same story or talking about the same things, it's fun talking to different people and hearing their different questions they got about it and how everything went down from their viewpoint. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, Chili Bowl was certainly eventful. I mean, starting off the week I was super excited to get back to Chili Bowl, super excited to get back in the Expo Center. That's a place that I think means a lot to a lot of people and means a lot to me just because, I mean, it's no doubt that the Chili Bowl is the biggest midget race of the year and arguably the biggest dirt track race of the year. There's so many eyes on it, and I think that was proved by what Flo put out the other day, where I think they had over 60 million viewers on the Chili Bowl
Most
alone.
viewed broadcast in flow racing history is what I saw earlier today, if I'm not mistaken. I mean,
Yeah,
it's incredible. You wouldn't believe it until you see those numbers kind of put on paper, but it was, I mean, easily one of the biggest events we've ever seen in dirt racing.
yeah. I mean, absolutely unreal for sure. Um, but we started out, so we went down there. I flew in. I think my flight landed Saturday at around 12:30, 1 o'clock. Landed, went and got my bags, and got our rental car and drove over to the Expo Center. And not long after I got there, they wanted to fire, which I was all good with. Double checking everything, making sure everything's good to go before you start your prelim night. And we couldn't get the thing to fire. They loaded it hot off the chassis dyno. Didn't really have a whole lot of time to tune it, just because it was such a tight window getting everything done.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. But getting everything done in time to go down to Chili Bowl. I mean, Dan Banks and Banks Motorsports and his son Phil and Uncle John and Kyle Rogers from Midwest Dyno Services, and there's just so many people that went into this program and this 3-cylinder package to even make it happen and get it to the Chili Bowl. It's pretty crazy. Talking to Dan, he talked about how his first idea and first drawing was 24 weeks before the Chili Bowl, and
Mm-hmm.
then nobody other than Dan a few years earlier had run a 3-cylinder, but even this one was nothing like it and completely different. And I mean, it's just unreal to even think about going and racing with a 3-cylinder midget engine. And a lot of people have asked me what sparked his idea and what sparked the concept. And to be quite honest with you, I don't even know. I've had so many questions about the thing that hasn't even come up yet. But
Did it? I guess that does raise a question for me. I mean, did it feel different? I mean, obviously you have midget experience prior to this. Like, did it feel different from a power perspective than what you're used to, or did it feel pretty similar?
it felt different in really every way.
Okay.
Um, it was a 3-cylinder fires every 120 degrees. And
All right.
I mean, 4-cylinder fires every 90 degrees or something like that. Um, And so just that like harmonically, it feels a lot different. And he's got some different harmonic balancer stuff on the front of it, and to try and help with that. But it still had this buzz. And the way I've described it to everybody is it's like trying to wrap your hands around a steering wheel that's like one of those cheap massage chairs at the mall that's set on high.
Mhm.
It
Yeah.
buzzes in your hands, and I haven't been a guy that's really been a grip the wheel hard kind of guy, but
Mhm.
um, I'm sure it affects those guys a lot.
Yeah.
But luckily, I'm not one of those guys, so it didn't really get to me a lot. Other than like, I mean, in the moment you don't really notice it, but like my hands would go numb, and I'd be so focused that I wouldn't really notice it. And then it's like when your leg falls asleep and you got pins and needles when you go to stand up again. And my hands when
Right.
I get to the top of the ramp and sit there massaging my hands, getting feeling back in my hands, and go out and do it again. But yeah, it's I don't think it's where we need to have it yet. I think it's got an extremely great potential. I think the sky's the limit with it. But it's like I told them guys, like Rome wasn't built in a day, and I was extremely pleased with the amount of progress we made at Chili Bowl. I felt like where we started and where we ended was two different worlds almost. Um, just playing with things like exhaust, and injection stacks and stack size and length and all sorts of different things. I mean, made a huge difference. And I worked with Dan and Phil and Kyle and Uncle John and all those guys to make a ton of adjustments on fueling and low speed and stumble valve and main pill size and all this stuff. And it made a huge difference. And I really would have liked to see where we could have been if we um, if we ended the way we started, or
Mhm.
if we were able to go and test and work on this stuff a little bit beforehand. Um, but like it was it was such a big difference that I don't even really know how to describe it. It's hard to really put it into words. Um, yeah, taking you through my week, we got there Saturday and everything didn't fire. Came back Sunday, thought we had found the issue Saturday night. It fired and ran, and then it dropped a cylinder and shut off. And so we weren't really sure what happened. Um, and then went and changed a bunch of stuff around and looked down in the engine everywhere we could look, cut the oil filter apart. I think we had the oil pan off at one point in time. Looked at everything we could look at, and there was nothing wrong with it. And so we figured it all had to be electrical, and we were changing all sorts of stuff around. And finally, um, I unfortunately we missed practice because we were fighting trying to get the thing to run, which it's still kind of crazy to me. Like it ran fine on the dyno. It started fine and ran up to speed fine. Had no problems. I mean, loaded it in the dyno. Didn't make any changes. Loaded it up at the dyno. I think the temp gauge was still at like 160 or something when they loaded it in the trailer. And took it down to Chillyville to go race. We couldn't get it to fire at all. And so we finally got it figured out Monday morning. And luckily, my dad and I know Shane Stewart, who owns Port City Raceway.
Mhm.
From his time he spent driving the Joe Gertie and Tim Norman owned 3G. Um, and so called Shane, and Shane said he was working on some projects over at the track, so the track's not really prepped, but we're more than welcome to come and burn some laps. And so Shane let us come over, and we went and burned some laps, make sure everything ran all right, and everything ran good. And loaded up in the trailer and took it back to the expo center. Um, and just got everything ready to go for our prelim night. You know, I got to, since everything was running good, I got to work with Jason McDougall a little bit at that Port City. Not a whole lot we could take over just because the track was so dry and crumbly. But I mean,
Right.
nonetheless, I think it's not a bad deal to get some more seat time in the midget and get some
Mhm.
more laps in it, even if it is just at Port and on a racetrack that's dry like that. It's always nice to at least have somewhat of a knowledge of what you're getting yourself into. Um, and I mean, it's the same way with the sprint car. It's like going and racing somewhere where you go and race for the first race of the year and there's no hot laps. You just line up for a heat race and you're getting after it. And so that's a tough thing to do. So luckily we were able to go burn some laps and I could work with Jason a little bit. But yeah, went over to the expo center for our prelim night Thursday or Tuesday, sorry. And things things fired off good in hot laps. Thing ran all right in hot laps. We were a little snug, made some adjustments, get ourselves freed up. And I felt like we were struggling a little bit on takeoff. So we put some gear to it. Well, some's kind of an understatement. We put about 40 points of gear to it. Um, and fixed our issue on takeoff, I felt. But then we were just gear bound down the straightaway, and I was so focused on getting the thing to take off right and getting the thing to, when I need to slow roll the bottom, getting it to come out of that bottom end where it'll be that was my biggest worry, and I felt like we fixed that some, and then we just had ourselves gear bound, and the guy in front of me, I don't remember who it was some 7 car, got above the cushion in 3 and 4, and I felt like left the door wide open for me to drive under him, and I felt like I was clear up next to him, at least. I mean, everybody tells the story their own way. Um, but I felt like I was clear up next to him, and we just got to the middle of 1 and 2, and he was coming down, and I was there, and we made contact, and unfortunately I got upside down and ended my heat race. It was just, I guess, part of being at the Chili Bowl, but had to go back and run the D main, and which is unfortunate. Started eighth, and I felt like we got to third. I think we were in third down the backstretch, or maybe it was into 3 and 4, one of the two. But I got to third very quickly, and had Jonathan Beeson and Ethan Mitchell in front of me, and I felt like I was rolling in on them decently. But I was just having a really, really hard time fighting a really bad stumble I had anytime I'd lift and go to get back on throttle. I'd fight a really bad stumble, and I'd lose wheel speed because of it, and get tight, and just a lot of issues like that. That's I guess didn't allow me to get to the transfer spot. I mean, you got what you got when you get on the racetrack, and I don't think it was to the fault of anybody. We were all working hard, and I think we all made big improvements all night long, even though we had different things we fought all night long. But at the end of the day, we just fought some issues that we couldn't overcome, I guess, and didn't transfer out of my D main, and so went back to the drawing board, and that's probably one of the things I'm most proud about throughout our week. It was an unfortunate circumstance being like that, upside down in our heat race, missing a qualifier, and then missing the transfer out of a D main. But Dan and Phil and Uncle John and Kyle Rogers and my dad, and Jason McDougall were all busting their butts all week, and never gave up, and there was plenty of opportunity where I could have got mad at them, or they could have got mad at me, and we could have yelled and tried to fight the thing out. But nobody ever got mad at anybody all week. Everybody stayed level headed, kind of put their ego to the side, and just put their heads down and went to work. And I'm extremely thankful for that, and just glad that no matter what happened, we still were there with the mentality of we're here to race. I mean, we've got to make the most of the situation. And so we went to the drawing board, and I think the guy's name's Mark from Schoenfeld Headers. Got us some tubing we needed to make some header adjustments, and Dan and Jason cut up the header we had, did some welding on it, made some adjustments to the end of the header, put a choke in it, and brought the ID down on it a little bit. And then Jason went and found us some 360 wing stacks, I think from Cade Morton and the Morton family, and just kind of put those in for Jason's prelim night, and changed some stuff around with fueling, and yeah, and everything ran a lot better for both of us, I felt, when we did that. But unfortunately, Jason had an issue. I don't remember. I think he had one of the O-ring lines for the oil went bad, and blew oil all over everything, and it was one of them deals where you run an engine without oil in it, it's probably not pretty. So we just decided to as a team to kind of focus on one car going forward for Saturday. And
I guess I'll stop you just before we get to the Saturday part. And the only reason I want to is I don't want to ask you the obvious question, right? Which is, how much did Jason McDougall, like, how much was leaning on him? How much did that help you? Because when you have a guy who has that much experience in a building like that, or in any track like that, the help is obvious. I think that probably goes without saying. But kind of walk me through what that relationship looked like. Like, how was he able to kind of help you through the process? Because obviously this is, I won't say new to you, but it's a very different situation. It's a very different car than you're used to. And you have a guy with so much experience who's seen so much in a car, especially at the Chili Bowl. Like how did that help you progress through the week? How did that kind of allow you to get the right mindset? Was it watching what he was doing? Was it something that he was telling you? How did that relationship kind of work for you?
Yeah, so I mean, I guess going back a couple years, well, I mean more than a couple years.
Hmm.
Excuse me. I think it was 2018 or 2019 when I met Jason. Um, my uncle Steve was racing at the Kokomo SmackDown with USAC. He's racing the Wednesday and Thursday night program, and then we were going to come home and I was going to go racing with my micro stuff. And Thursday ended up getting rained out, and I don't remember what the bar's called behind Kokomo, but everybody went to the little bar area they got there behind Kokomo, and everybody was singing karaoke, and I was way too young to get in. You know, I think I was 11 or 12 at the time, and I don't remember how I knew the guy that was like checking everybody's IDs at the door and everything. He's like, "All right, you're clearly well underage." He goes, "I know you're not going to go in there and be drinking." He's like, "So I'm just going to let you in." I was like, "I usually don't do this, but you're a good kid." He's like, "I know your head's on your shoulders straight. I'll let you go in there." And so it was crazy. You know, I was in there with all the USAC guys and all these guys that I'd watched on TV for so long. And I was just following my Uncle Steve around. And I was wearing my 10J chassis shirt. My Uncle Steve was wearing his 10J chassis shirt. And at the time, I think it was just after Jason had went out to California and ran 10J's micro. So he ended up coming over, and we ended up talking for like 3 hours about micro stuff and setups and different front axle stuff and all sorts of different ideas. And so I got to know Jason through that. And so when Dan called me and told me we needed to kind of find somebody to crew chief for us, I'd gotten to know Jason through that and talked to him a couple different times. And so I felt like he was kind of the clear and obvious choice. So got to work with Jason in 2023, 2024, 2024, 2025, and then again this year. And he's just a super level-headed guy. I feel like we've been through a decent amount in the 3 years we've been together. So it was nice to go in there with. I mean, we were going in there with a different engine package, but everything else was something I'd worked with before, even if not for a long time, enough to get to know everything. And Jason, just every time I worked with him, he's been able to keep me extremely level-headed. I feel like I'm not a guy that gets way wound up and loses my composure easily, but having a calm guy behind you that doesn't get wound up definitely helps that. So working with Jason's great, just because he's got so much knowledge in that building and so much time put into that building alone that every time I go in there, I'm 100% comfortable and 100% confident in my race car. And I think that's really important no matter what racing you're doing. But yeah, so that's kind of how I got to know Jason and how my relationship with Jason is just a guy that likes going racing just like the rest of us, and yeah, calm and doesn't get too wound up and always. I feel like he doesn't just make decisions based off of what he sees. He takes my feedback into account and does what we kind of feel need together to get me comfortable and yeah, I guess just a guy that I've meshed with well.
Yeah, absolutely. So now we get into Saturday, and if I'm not mistaken, you kick things off early. Main, if I'm not mistaken, is your first race out. Is that correct?
Yeah, so I was there well before the main. Rolled into the building at 7 when it opened, and I think we went and fired at 8 a.m. as soon as the push trucks were out there to push people off to fire, just because we wanted to, we'd had issues earlier in the week. It's
Right.
just one of them deals where we need to double check this, and it's not going to hurt anything to get some heat in it before we go and run. And so went and fired, everything went good, and we actually changed back after Jason's feedback, changed back to the original stats that we ran on my prelim night, and went out for my main, and I felt like we really weren't that good, to be honest with you. I didn't feel very comfortable in the race car. It was just for the amount of grip the racetrack had in it, I felt like I was really, really free and really loose. And then I felt like we were fighting kind of bottom end again. And so once I got going, it was okay. And everything was all good. But yeah, I mean, I felt like most of the guys almost moved out of my way, trying to drive over their heads or just making contact with another guy, whatever it may be. They kind of moved out of my way, and I was able to skate through to the lead and won that first main. And then got back to the top of the ramp and kind of told the guys what I was feeling and what I thought we needed to do differently. And then obviously I just kind of let Jason do his thing, told him how I was feeling, and he told the guys what adjustments we needed to make. And I know we changed stacks back to the longer, smaller stacks, and it ran a lot better after that. I felt like it wasn't rough on the bottom end, and followed my foot somewhat well. So, yeah, I mean, then it was just after that, it was just one of a kind experience. I mean, going through 9 mains in one day is something I'll never forget. And I don't remember a lot. I mean, I kind of remember most of it, and I've watched the flow videos back, but I don't really remember racing with one particular car a whole lot more than I remember racing with Brenham Crouch and Mac Leopard. Me and Mac went through, I think, all of them together, and I mean, I felt like we were lacking a little bit just on a bottom end. Just like I said earlier, just something we need to work on and improve for next year, or the future whenever we run again. We need to work on just throttle response and things like that. But I felt like I've been racing long enough to know at least where I need to put myself in the race car, and I felt like a lot of it was not putting myself in a bad spot and getting my stuff tore up and missing wrecks when I need to miss wrecks. I mean, there was 3 or 4 or 5 of those mains where it was, man, you missed the big one into turn 1 and you're in a transfer spot. So I felt like I did a really good job keeping my nose clean, and it was really surreal those last 4, 5, 6 mains. Just seeing how much the crowd got into it, and then how much more the crowd got into it as time went on. I mean, I remember rolling out and rolling down the ramp the last couple of mains, and all the people in the little stands there in 3 and entering turn 3 are just jumping up and down and going crazy. And I don't remember. I think it was the H main. I rolled out and I just put a peace sign on the top of the cage because I saw everybody cheering, and that people just went crazy, got up on their feet, and it was like a standing ovation as I rolled around the racetrack. More and more people stood up, and it was just such an amazing experience, to go out and race and have that much energy in the building and that many people behind you. I know there was one guy out there in the stands where I don't remember what his sign said, but it was like a pink sign, and he flipped it over and he wrote F and send it on it. And I remember I think it was either the H or the G. Everybody kind of flocked to the bottom, so I went to the top going into 1, and I saw this dude I'm coming out of turn 2, and he's hanging over the railing with his sign that says F and send it. And I really didn't take in a lot of that stuff, while I'm racing, just because I'm so focused on the task at hand. But the dude was so far out there with this, I don't remember, it was like some neon color. He was so far out there with this sign where it was like, you can't miss it. And it was so awesome just to see all the people support me, and the Let's Go Naida chant was crazy. And I'd stick my hand out of the side and try and hype people up, and they'd get crazy loud. And it was just so amazing to see that. And then the congratulations afterwards, and the people that come up to me in staging and, great job, man, keep it up, give me a fist bump, give me a high five. Just, it was so great seeing all that stuff. And it's hard to not let that stuff get to your head when you get out on the racetrack and you get to racing and stuff like that. You really got to block all that stuff out. And when you have that many people behind you, it's difficult. I won't lie to you, it's difficult. And just being able to stay level-headed through it all, and work with all my guys through it, Dan Binks and Cody Swanson and Dan's son Phil Binks, and Phil's uncle John, and Jason and my dad, and Kyle Rogers a lot too. All my guys they worked so hard all week long, and nobody ever quit, and really kept our Mission Foods 3D in the fight on Saturday, no matter what we faced. We faced some battery issues. I mean, shoot, there's so much we had to change just off wear and tear, changing tire stuff, putting fuel in the car, changing batteries. I mean, there was one time I was out there on the racetrack, and I think it was the 4th main I was in. We get the 1 to go, and the car just dies in the middle of the front stretch. Like, it just shut off. I didn't know what happened, and I rolled over to the work area. I told the guys, I'm like, hey, it just died. I don't know what happened. It just shut off. The fuel was still on. The switches were still on. I'm like, I don't know what happened.
Mm-hmm.
And Jason leaned in. He's like, well, did you try and fire it again? And I told him, like, no, it just shut off. I thought something was like terminally wrong. And he goes, well, just try and fire it again. And so I tried to fire it again, and it ran the rest of the main and got up to the top of the ramp, and the battery voltage was really low, and I mean transferred through that main, and it was tough. It was, I think I was in seventh. We had a green, white, checkered restart, and we had one where it was a green, then white, then checkered,
Mhm.
and I passed the dude for sixth, passed the dude for fifth, and the yellow come out. And so I had to give both of them spots back. And then the next one, they just did green and white together, and we were coming back around to the checkered. And so, nerves are high because
Mhm.
I passed both them guys on the top and turned 1 and 2. I'm like, shoot, somebody's going to be blocking my line. Like, this isn't going to be good. I got to figure out something different. Like, do I try and split them into one? What do I do? And they both went to the bottom, and so I heroed that thing around 1 and 2 as hard as I could, and passed both of them in 1 and 2, and then kind of protected and slid myself into 3 and 4, and transfer on to the next main. And that was the first main where people really started to get behind me and really
Mhm.
started to cheer, and you could feel the energy in the building. And after that, it was just so surreal. And we got to the top of the ramp, and the guys changed the battery, and everything after that. There was no issues with it shutting off or wanting to die or anything like that. So, but yeah, I mean, we faced a lot. I felt like in the 4 or 5 hours we were
Mhm.
racing on Saturday, and just super thankful that I had a great team behind me.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I remember watching this, and the it's not often that on a motorsports broadcast, like college football, college basketball. I'll kind of compare it to like college basketball, just because both in these arenas, right? You watch and you can feel the energy sometimes from a college basketball game, especially when you're watching like Kentucky play, or Michigan at Chrysler Arena gets really loud, and that's kind of the energy that you could feel through the flow broadcast. Was like, it was just loud. You could hear the "Let's Go Nida" chants. I remember that one vividly, and you're like, for me, it was cool because I'm sitting here. I'm like, this is like a big moment for you. It was a big moment for Mac going through his mains as well. Like, this was a huge moment. This is where you guys kind of finally put your names on the map, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that it's cool to hear you sit back and say, look, yeah, I could feel that, going out, and yeah, it was tough not to let it get to me, but who wouldn't, like in that moment,
Right.
especially in the first moment where you're like that and you can feel that over these cars, is one of those things where that to me was where you kind of tell, like, one, it's the Chili Bowl. That's obviously the crowd is into it, but you don't normally see them into it that early in the day. And for them to be going crazy the way they were for you guys going through those mains was so fun to watch. It was one of those things that, like, for me, put Chili Bowl on the map is like, I need to get there and just see this for myself in person. It was not one of those events for me that has ever been like, oh, I need to be there, need to get there. But it's certainly joined Knoxville Nationals. It's joined, you know, some of the biggest events in racing for me that, yeah, I need to see this at least one time. And I think that was the cool part for me watching, and to know that that energy was not any less, and there was probably even more amplified in that building. Um, really, really a cool bit of information to know. So,
Yeah.
going, go ahead if you have anything.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that, like, the outpouring of support was
Mhm.
insane, even after they know the night ended. Well, I guess my
Right.
day. We really didn't get to the night program,
Mhm.
but the outpouring of support was crazy. I mean, I think I signed autographs and took pictures for 2 or 3 hours, and it was a long time before I even got out of my suit after my run was done. And I just am so thankful for all the people that have come down. My social media stuff was crazy. I have all my notifications turned off on my phone except for Snapchat messages and Facebook Messenger. And I got back to my phone, and I had over 650 notifications,
Mhm.
and it was just insane to see the amount of people that reached out, and the amount of texts I got, and the texts that I got from people that like I've approached for opportunities in the past and asked to drive their race car, like, that I thought, I didn't get this opportunity. Um, it is what it is. and you don't think you're going to hear back from them people again. And just like the amount of people that reached out, and today actually we launched my website shopdarinaida.com, and there's been so many people that have reached out and wanting to get shirts and ordered shirts, and we posted about ordering shirts, and so many people have reached out and commented. And like yesterday I made a post asking about if people wanted, like, what people wanted. Did they want shirts? Did they want hoodies? What colors do they
Colors,
want?
yeah, yeah.
And it was just so cool to see how many people number one wanted my
Mhm.
shirt. Like, I feel like I've sold more shirts today than I've sold my entire career. And it's just been so cool to see that and be a part of it, and the outpouring of support's insane. It's been so cool to see so many people, I guess, kind of rally around our Binks Motorsports Mission Foods 3D after one unforgettable day.
Yeah, 100%, man. It's been fun to watch. I can't help but kind of smile when I see it because obviously we talked last year, and your goal was, really just to get through the season. I mean, that was straight up what I do remember you telling me was, hey, I just want to get through the season. I don't know where we'll end up or how things are going to look. And as you did that, and then progressed into this off season into Chili Bowl, and to have what has again turned into what could be a kind of career changing moment just from one day that you didn't know what you were even going to get out of it. You walked in. I highly doubt you expected to do what you did, which was set a record at the time, for the longest soup run in Chili Bowl history. Which congratulations on holding the record. Um, but going into that, I could only imagine that there were not many thoughts or expectations. And then as the day goes on, it's just kind of like, oh shit, we're here, and let's just keep it going and rolling. So I'm super happy for you, man. Like it's been fun to watch. Um, really really excited for what that brings for this year. But before we talk a little bit about this year and what you got going on, let's talk about last year for a minute. You had, I would say, a pretty solid year with the All Stars. One, you finished the year, which was something that not everybody was able to say they did. And I think I saw a noticed improvement personally, especially from like Speed Week on. I think that's where I really noticed it the most. What was last year like for you? That was your first time really on a touring series that had that kind of a, I don't want to call it a grueling schedule because it wasn't quite, it's not high limit or what about Outlaws, but it is grueling for a family owned team to go out there and try to do 30 races and race for points and a payout like that. So how did that season for you? How do you feel about the way 2025 ended?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like 2025 ended a lot better than it started. Um, it's tough because we won a couple races, and I was able to win a race at Fremont, and that's a place that means a lot to me, and that night was very special to me. I felt like there was a lot of nights where we had really good runs, um, but to be quite honest with you, 2025 was a little frustrating for me. I felt like there was 4 or 5 nights where I should have won, and I either made a mistake, or we had a part failure, or made the wrong decision under an open red. But like, it's tough. I mean, I want to say it was 2 races we were leading, and had a part failure. Um, and it's tough because I feel like we do a pretty good job of staying up on our stuff and maintenance in our stuff, and we really didn't have a lot of part failures. Um, I think across all the cars I ran 55 races, and we really didn't have a lot of part failures. Um, but I felt like the ones we did have were at the complete wrong times. Excuse me.
Bless you.
Um, but I felt like the ones we did have were at the worst times possible. And there's
Mhm.
never a good time to have a part failure, but there's definitely a bad time.
Yeah.
And so that was frustrating. And I just felt like there was a couple nights where I made a mistake, and like, I mean, I remember racing at Wayne County one night. I think it was the Pete Jacobs Memorial, and I felt like I was extremely comfortable. Um, Really fast, had great speed, and started on the front row and faded early, faded to like eighth or ninth, um, and slid Cale Thomas for I believe it was second or third, and then I just got into his air wrong going into 3 and 4 after I slid him, and just spun out, made a mistake. I mean, there wasn't really anything more to it. I felt like we had a great race car, and I needed to settle in and be patient. And I got excited and started hearing the thing as hard as I could into both ends, and just spun out on my own. Um, and I was running second to Devin Borden at Paragon, um, and he ended up running out of fuel. Um, and I wasn't in position to capitalize on it because I was just trying to go so hard. I lost the lead, and after I lost the lead, I really ramped it up and got going good. It just kept wanting more and more and more and more, and eventually found the limit and went over it. Blew it off the end in turn 1 and 2, and backed it into the soft wall. And I think we ended up finishing ninth, but it's hard to be happy with ninth when you know you got race winning speed. Um, and So yeah, I mean there was nights where it was frustrating and it was hard. Um, but I mean we all stuck through it together. My dad and me and my one of my crew guys Evan and my one of my longtime supporters Patrick and K4, they stuck with me through it, and my mom and dad were extremely supportive throughout the whole process, and so was my girlfriend Carly. And I mean everybody stuck together, and we ended up having a lot of really good nights.
Hmm.
Um, but it's tough. I feel like it's tough for any race car driver to look back on a year and think, man, if I did this different, and I did this different, it would have been a lot different. Um, but I mean, at the end of the day, I really got to thank all the great supporters and partners and people that really just help me through year after year and keep me racing and really help me in doing what's best for me. I really got to thank Daddy Bears and L&M Properties. They were both new for this past year, and without them, I don't think we would have been able to do the outlaw, or not the outlaw, but the All Star deal, and really a lot of racing that we did at all. I got to thank Poor Racing. He's been with me for really the majority of my career. I think he's sponsored me longer than anybody I've got with me currently. So just having his support through so many years of micro racing and sprint car racing and all the trials and tribulations that we've been through together. Um, it's been great to have his support, and I really got to thank like Phil Renault with Rhino Racing. He supported my program a lot. You could see his logo right there, Rhino Racing. Um, but he supported me a lot throughout the year, and let me drive his 10RR a few times. So I really got to thank him. I really got to thank Ackland Insurance. He's been a big part of my career. He's a big part of my dad's career as well. So it's cool to continue that. I got to thank Tyson and Susan from STP Motorsports for their help when I needed it. And Tyson's been a guy where I uh, I met him in 2024 and just got to know him and build a little bit of a relationship with him. And him and his wife Susan are both great people and huge supporters of racing. You know, they've got their own team. They've supported. I know they've sponsored a couple different things at Millstream Speedway, and just people that are good for the sport. And, you know, we need more people like Susan and Tyson involved in the sport. I think Susarski Excavating and Paving. I was actually over at Brian Susarski and Angie's house for dinner before I got on here, and yeah, they've been huge supporters of me. We wouldn't have been able to go sprint car racing without them at all, and they really gave me my first real opportunity. They let me drive their micro sprint, and then when they had hyper chassis and we had 10J chassis, and Brian just wanted my honest feedback on things, and I told him that I felt a lot more comfortable in the 10J stuff, and so they kind of went all in on me and and helped me with my 10J program and helped me develop that and get it to where it was successful, and then helped get me to the next level when it was time to move on. So I'm extremely thankful for their support, and Brian and Angie and Walt and Sharon, um, and Mike, and um, there's so many memories with all of them, and so many times where I've been on the verge of not being able to race and sitting out, and they've really helped me out, whether it be fixing our truck, loaning us the truck to go racing with, or just supporting us through the racing deal. Um, I got to thank Kistler Engines and Racing Products. You know, Paul and Dave, they're both great guys, and anything I've like needed advice with or engine stuff, I feel like I ask Paul so many dumb questions where he probably wants to tell me to get out half the time because I feel like it's common sense stuff for a lot of people, but
Mhm.
I haven't been around for the longest time, so there's a lot of things that I just don't know, and Paul's been great to get advice from, and if anybody's out there wanting to get a 410 or a sprint car engine and they're not sure who to go with, I highly encourage you to go with Kistler Racing Engines. They're a great group of guys and just great people that are honest with you and they won't do anything dishonest and they're all just great guys over there. I got to thank Hills Racing and Townline Variety for all they did. Without them and the Suzuki's, like I said earlier, I probably wouldn't be sprint car racing. Got to thank Kaiser aluminum wheels for literally keeping the wheels under this thing. And then Wade makes great hubs and wheels, and I've been lucky enough to be with Kaiser Racing Wheels for the majority of my career. I got to thank K1 Race Gear for keeping me safe at all times, and I got to thank one of our newer partners, Flush Portables, for all their help this year too. They came on for Speed Week, and it was great to add them to the team. And then finally, I got to thank Kirk Level and Level Utilities. Kirk's a guy that I met kind of, I don't know, at a weird time for me. And I wasn't, I would say I'm super successful now or a big name or anything like that. But I felt like I was kind of in one of the lower spots of my sprint car career, and I met Kirk, and it wasn't anything that I felt was based off of results. It was just I met him through a mutual friend in the Linders, and Kirk's been a huge supporter, and I feel like Kirk's the guy where he'd give you the shirt off his back if you asked for it, and so he's just Kirk's just a great guy that's been able to support me, and I gotta thank Joe Gertie for all his help and advice this year too. Sprint car racing was tough for me this year, and I just couldn't get through it without all these great partners, supporters, and people.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's talk about this year. How you're going to get through it. I mean, you've I believe you've kind of announced already what you intend to do or how you intend to do it. So what is that plan? What does that look like for you? And what are your intentions on the 2026 season?
So right now, I really don't have a solid, firm put in place plan.
Mm-hmm.
I've committed to Mark Daly and Mark Daly Racing. He's been gracious enough to give me the opportunity to run his 2MD for about 10 to 15 nights. And we're still not sure what those races are. I got to sit down with Mark, I think, this week and talk to him about that. But Mark's been a great guy, big part of my career, even just kind of in the background most of the time, with advice and sponsorship help and things like that. Mark's helped me a lot with a lot of things, and he's given me the opportunity to run his 2MD, and so I'm extremely excited to do that. And then other than that, I'm really not sure what this year looks like, to be honest with you. I've got my family car. Well, not this car. This car's for sale. So if anybody's looking for an RPM, I've got one. But my family program, I'm really not sure what we're going to do with it. I intend to kind of fill in all the gaps in my schedule with my family car and race it. I've got some great supporters that I just mentioned that a lot of them are going to be back on board for this coming year. So I'm excited to keep them on board. But I'm really not sure what my family program looks like at this time. I'm trying to, we've been running, when we moved up to sprint cars, we kind of knew that this wasn't going to be a long-term thing. We don't have the financial capabilities to operate a sustainable sprint car team for a long period of time. The goal was, when we got into sprint car racing, was to get me into a full-time ride and get me into just kind of, it was almost just a bridge from getting into sprint cars to getting me a ride. And that's been one of my big deals, is trying to find that full-time ride. And so, this past year was a stretch for our team financially. So funding's kind of limited for this year, but we're just gonna give it all we got and try and run as many races as we can. I'm still looking for a full-time ride in the sprint car deal, or really any ride in the sprint car deal, to be quite honest with you. And I'd like to do a lot more midget racing and run a non-wing sprint car a time or two if I can. but my plans aren't firm and my plans aren't in place. But I'm hoping I can get that finalized here soon, um, and just do as much racing as I can. You know, that's what I've wanted to do since I was little. My dream's been to be a professional race car driver, and I mean, ideally, I'd be a professional sprint car driver, but I just want to be a professional race car driver. It doesn't matter what I'm driving. If I'm driving race cars and I'm doing that, and I can pay my bills and live off of that money, then I'll be extremely happy with where I'm at in life. Um, but yeah, that's kind of what I've got put together so far for this coming year, and hopefully I can get some more put together soon and kind of release that.
Yeah, absolutely. What trying to think of how I want to go about this next question. What do you think you learned the most with the All Stars last year when it came to whether it's something you learned on track, off track, really in general? What do you think was the biggest piece of information you learned last year?
I mean, I think the biggest thing I learned was you just gotta, that's tough. Um, it's tough to ask it. It's tough to answer it. But I think the biggest thing I learned was just you got to be patient. You got to let the race play out. Like I said earlier, I felt like I gave a couple races away, pushing too hard, and making mistakes. And kind of I felt like Chili Bowl was a good example of that. You know, there's a lot of guys that push too hard and crash out early or run somebody over trying to race for a transfer spot or for the lead and give that race away. Um, and I feel like that's something I needed to do a better job with this year, and something that I've learned on and improved on in the back half of the year. Um, I just really need to settle in when I need to settle in and let the race play out and develop, and then know when it's time to ramp it back up. Um, I mean, everybody they're short races, so you can't just ride around and let people drive by you. But at the same point in time, um, you can't be 140% every lap and wad your stuff up trying. You know, I mean, I know there's a lot of people out there that aren't won't be upset with you if you wad your stuff up trying, but I feel like I wadded my stuff up trying and cost myself some wins this year, unfortunately. And I just need to really just know when I need to settle in, and when I need to push, and I think that that's just something you learn as time goes on, and hopefully I can do a better job of that this coming year.
Yeah, absolutely, man. You mentioned wanting to get into a non-wing car a little bit more. Just help me fill in the blank. Have you been in one? Is that something that you've like? Yeah, trying to think how to word this because I'm not trying to word it as if it's a bad thing because I think it's cool, man. I think it takes balls to get into a non-wing car, plain and simple. And what has that been like an interest in you for a while, or is that something that
Mm-hmm.
you kind of have?
No, I've had a lot of interest in that. I feel like there's a lot of kids in my generation that grew up watching Jack Slash videos and Loud Pedal
Mhm.
videos. I mean, I still go
Yeah,
back when I'm bored and I'll watch the Loud Pedal Sprint Week videos from 2015, 2016, those Chili Bowl videos, stuff like that. And it's just there's something about an online sprint car, just raw and unfiltered,
hmm
that I mean, it's when it's in its purest form like that. I feel like it's hard to beat. You know, I feel like there's every race car's like that. Um, like I think it's hard to beat qualifying a wing sprint car at Kokomo. I mean, I think
yeah,
that's one of the coolest things you can do is go qualify someplace where it's curbed up and on the fence at the same time, where it's small, and you got to be up on the wheels as a race car driver, and you got to be 110%, and it can bite you. You know, it can bite you quickly and easily, but at the same point in time, you got to accept that when you roll out on the racetrack and give 110% regardless. Um, and so, I mean, I think a non-wing sprint car, along with a wing sprint car, is one of them cars where it's extremely demanding, and you have to push it to its absolute limit, just to compete with guys nowadays. And watching, like I said earlier, watching those non-wing sprint car videos, and there's so many times where I watch a USAC race at Putnamville or Kokomo, or Paragon or Bloomington. There's just, I mean, you could sit here for hours. I feel like and name races where you've seen just an absolutely awesome non-wing sprint car race. And it's been something that I've wanted to do for a long time. It's tough because I feel like if you're going to be a professional sprint car driver, it's a lot easier to be a professional sprint car driver driving a wing 410 than it is to be a non-wing 410, just because of the pay difference. I feel like there's a lot more wing sprint car racing. There's a lot more higher paying wing sprint car racing, and I mean there's 2 national wing 410 groups, and some stepping stone series like NARC and like the All Stars that'll get you to that next level. And there's so many local racetracks across the country where I feel like with the non-wing deal, there's USAC, and then there's that, I think it's that Midwest Thunder 410 group's what it's called, that took over MSCS. But there's the USAC deal, and there's the Midwest Thunder deal, and other than that, there's a few local racetracks around the country, and there's the USAC CRA deal in California. But like, there's not a lot of non-wing sprint car racing out there, and it's one of them.
That's
things
why
where
it's so cool to hear. I'm sorry to
Yeah.
interrupt, but it's why it's so cool to hear you say that, because look, I don't say this in any other way, but you're in a sense considerably younger than me. I remember growing up watching VHS tapes of non-wing races, right? Like my family has a handful of the old like Silver Crown stuff from back when Dave won the championship with them in '84, and like I have a ton of videos from them, Keith Kaufman. Like I got a picture, maybe it's not over here. I don't think I've hung it up yet, but I got a picture over here of Keith Kaufman sitting in his race car at Nazareth, the only race they ever won. And like to know that there's still people, there's still the younger generation that still wants to go and get in those cars, and it's not something that's all they've ever known, is really cool to me. I didn't know how to ask that question because, again, it's rare. You know, like you don't see a lot of people, especially my age and younger. Like I mean, I'm going to be 26 this year, and I feel like a lot of the newer fans don't understand or appreciate the non-wing game the way they should. It's just really refreshing for me to hear, again, somebody younger than me say that, because it is tough. It is some of the most incredible racing when you really understand what's behind it and you don't just care about what the on-track product looks like. It's some of the most pure racing out there, and they're, again, really cool to know that there are members of this younger generation who want to be a part of that.
Yeah, I mean, I think non-wing 410s for car racing, some of the purest racing you can get. I mean, and I might hurt some feelings when I say this, but I think there's a lot of races where, you know, High Limit or the Outlaws will be somewhere and the USAC guys will be somewhere, and it's like, oh, USAC's at Putnamville. That's a pretty cool joint. I know how good of a race a USAC sprint car can put on. I mean, I'm going to turn that on and watch that. I love sprint car racing in general, but like, I've never got the opportunity to do it. There's just something about it that man, like, it makes me want to run a 410 sprint car or a non-wing 410 sprint car. And I think a lot of it is just those videos that pop up on your phone when you're scrolling of some dude bent in there completely sideways, smacking a curb wide open and having the front end in the air, and at the same time mashing the gas and pulling the thing out of it and going down to the other end of the racetrack and hearing it in the next lap and doing the same thing over and over. And I mean, I just think there's just something about it that just looks like it'd be fun to drive. And I feel like the midget stuff's the same way for me. When they get to their cool racetracks, I mean, it don't matter what you're racing. You're going to go to some racetracks where it's not going to be a lot of fun. I mean, yeah. I shouldn't say that. It's going to be a lot of fun, but there's a lot of racetracks where it's like, this is the most fun I've ever had racing. You get that feeling, you know, when you come off the racetrack, and I feel like there's a lot of those racetracks with the USAC stuff, with the sprint cars and the midgets, and with the Silver Crown stuff too. I mean, the Silver Crown stuff's such a different way of racing. You know, you got to really settle in and be calm and be patient and manage your tire, and there's just so many different things about all that stuff that it really piques my interest, and so I'd really love to get the opportunity to do all of that stuff someday.
And I think that you would be doing it at the right time, by the way. The reason I say that, obviously, Cody Swanson is taking on a bigger role, specifically with the Silver Crown series, and I cannot tell you how important I think that's going to be for the future of that series. Look, it's no secret car counts have been down. It's no secret that they've had their issues and struggles. But right now, I think there would not be a better time to find a chance to do that. Just my personal opinion, and what I know of Cody Swanson. I don't know him personally, but knowing what I know about him, the experience he has within the series, that's a really good move for USAC as a whole, and for the Silver Crown series.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but Cody Swanson was my teammate for the Chili Bowl stuff for the year,
Mm-hmm.
every year other than this year when I ran for Dan Binks, and so I've gotten to know Cody a lot, and I actually talked to him about the USAC Silver Crown Series director stuff this year, and I know he's excited to do it, and I think, like you said, I think he's a guy that they need to get in there. I think that series kind of really across the board bring in a lot of officiating officials and guys in the upper level of it that are in charge of making big decisions that really don't know what they're getting into, as well as a guy that's lived it and breathed it and seen it from all angles like Cody has. I mean, I think it's tough finding a guy that wants to, number one, be on that side of it. Like, I mean, I know I've given a lot of officials a lot of crap, I guess, over the years about, man, I feel like you made the wrong decision,
Mm-hmm.
or I feel like this happened this way, and you should have done something about it. Or, I mean, there's so many times where, like, I mean, just like the most simple thing I can think of is jumping a start, right? You start next to a guy, and you can go at the white line and wait for the guy next to you to go, and you go at the right line at the white line, but he's in the middle of the racetrack and you're in the moisture, and so you get a better launch down the straightaway, and then they call a jump for that. And I
Yeah.
feel like that's a deal where, like, having a guy in there like Cody can see that, like, okay, they went at the same time. Some dude just sat there and spun his tires where the other guy got a good launch because he was in the moisture and put his car where he needed to be. And I feel like that's something where, having a guy like Cody Swanson, or like when the All Stars had Dale Blaney, like, I know Dale got a little bit of heat because of the whole Danny Dietrich thing at Kokomo, but, like, I felt like having an official in there where, I mean, I never raced with it when Dale was officiating, but, like, having a guy in those seats to make the big time decisions like that, I feel like that's where it's extremely valuable to have a guy that's been racing and doing something like that. So, yeah, I mean, like you said, I think it's extremely valuable for USAC to have Cody in that position, and I'm excited to see how that goes, and I'm excited to see how things go with. I think Rizzy's the technical director for USAC sprint car
Yeah, I
stuff.
believe so.
So I'm
I believe
excited
so.
to see that too.
Yeah, it's a really exciting time for them, and it again, it just kind of adds to the excitement that again, there are younger generation drivers that want to do that. Um, I guess to close this thing out like we did last year, I talked about some successful parts of the season, what you would consider a success. So this 2026 season, a lot of unknowns you're going into, and rightfully understood that you may not have a great answer for this, but what are your expectations for 2026? Just simply on track, what would you like to say that you were able to accomplish at the end of this year?
I mean, I just, first and foremost, I just like to go out and win races. Um, I talked to Kevin Osmolsky about this actually at one point in time. I was like, man, I just feel like I've given up, and kind of like I talked to you, is like, man, I feel like I've given up a lot of races for reasons I shouldn't have. And I feel like there's been a lot of times where if I would have put myself in a better spot, I might have been able to win this race. And I mean, hindsight's always 2020 with that kind of stuff, but it's
Right.
like, man, I really want to win some races and win a lot of races. I mean, everybody wants to win a lot of races, but I
Yeah.
feel like if I play all my cards right, um, I feel like I've got the people around me now where if I get the right opportunity and things go right at the right times, like, I feel like I can win some races. And that's my big thing. And it's kind of always been my big thing is winning championships is cool, and and being running for points, that stuff's all cool. And if I get any opportunity to do any of that stuff, I mean, it's a no-brainer, I feel like, to do it. But just the point that I'm at in my career, I really want to start winning some races. You know, I've won races. Um, I won some races this past year, and I won some races the year before and the year before that too. But there's no better feeling than winning a sprint car race. And I feel like you win a sprint car race, and I feel like you ride that high for a little bit. It's a feeling where you're on cloud nine. Being able to beat, because I mean, in our region, well, I guess like the Attica Fremont region and Indiana and the whole Ohio area and the
Mhm.
Pennsylvania scene, and winning sprint car racing is so tough. And I feel like anytime you're able to win, you're just on cloud nine, because you look back through the field and, man, we beat this guy and we beat this guy and we beat this guy and we beat this guy, and he's been racing for this long and he's won all these races. And it's cool to win races like that. And so I really just want to get back to like I was when I was racing micros, and just be able to win, and have the speed to contend for wins on a consistent basis. And if I have that, I'll consider 2026 a success.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I'm looking forward to watching it, man. I know all these plans are kind of up in the air, but I'm looking forward to seeing where things go for you and how this ends up, because like say it, and I mean it when I say that I genuinely believe what happened last week, the run through the Chili Bowl has certainly opened some eyes to what's on the table, in a sense, and hopefully those opportunities continue to open for you, and find some places, man, because uh, I know you got the want to do it, and I know you got a lot of heart when you get in there, man. I genuinely feel like there weren't many more guys who improved more than you did last year throughout the course of the season, which says a lot because I watch every series. So there's like it's definitely something that I think you're going to continue to find that success. And again, the more things like that can happen for you, I think the better, man. So I'm wishing you a lot of luck, dude. Genuinely. And make sure, guys, you see the link right there. Go buy a T-shirt, man. That the soup run was worth a T-shirt, at a very minimum. Um, dude, I'm genuinely proud of you, man. From our conversation last year to where you're at right now. Um, just keep at it, man. I know things are tough. The world is very difficult in general as it is. Um, but keep your head up, keep pushing, dude. I'm really pulling for you this year and seeing what you're able to do. So I appreciate you being here. Genuinely, that I can't state enough that it means a lot to me. You are willing to spend your time talking to me, but not just me. Everybody else you've sat here and done interviews with this last week, man. You've been so gracious with your time with me the last couple of years, and really with everybody else. It's cool to watch, and you're great for sprint car racing, dude. Genuinely. So I'm excited to see what happens. I hope there's some more opportunities for you, and I wish you really the best the rest of the year.
Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate it. And yeah, I guess like I said earlier, I just like talking. I don't remember if we were on camera or not, but I just it don't matter what the situation is. If it's a random fan, if it's some dude at the grocery store that
Mhm.
recognizes me, or if it's coming on a podcast like this or any of the others I've been on this week. I like talking about racing. I feel like it's one of the it's I mean it's not one of it's the thing I'm most passionate about. And
Mhm.
I'm extremely thankful to be able to live the life I live, being able to go racing so much and do so much stuff when it comes to racing, and be surrounded by great people doing it. So, yeah, thanks for having me on, and thanks for taking the time to talk to me, man.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. Anytime. You're welcome here. Literally anytime. We always have a good time. So, um, stay safe. I know weather's hitting you just as much as it's about to hit me. So stay safe this week, man, and we'll definitely be catching up in the future.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, man.
Hey guys, just before we get out of here, just wanted to say thank you guys so much for tuning in, and also let you guys know that if you guys want to support Darin Naida and what he has been able to do so far this season on the track, of course, that Chili Bowl run, you can go find his merch over on his website. It is shopdarinnaida.com. You can find all of his Chili Bowl merch right here. They got all kinds of crew necks, hoodies, t-shirts. He did not ask me to throw this up here, but the link's going to be in the description. You guys can go check him out and make sure you support a um, a really good kid, man. I had a lot of fun talking with him. I thought it was a really good time, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he's able to do this year. We had a really fun conversation. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed it. Let me know who you guys would like to see next. We have a couple planned in the future, but yeah, always open to suggestions and things that we could do better here. So, thank you guys so much for tuning in again. I ask if you're new again, leave a like, subscribe, comment down below. Let me know what you guys would like to see next. And yeah, thank you guys so much. This has been Sprint Car Central. We'll see you next time.